He was carrying boxes for the new neighbor, drenched in sweat after a full day working at the ranch. She offered money, but he refused with a kind smile. When he discovered she was running from a painful past just like him, she made a decision that would change everything. What happened next? It transformed their lives forever. Before we begin, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Need some help? The voice came from across the fence. Firm, but respectful. Sarah looked up from the pile of boxes stacked on the ground. A man stood there, tools still hanging from his work belt, hands covered in grease and dirt. I can manage. Thanks. That's a lot of boxes for one person. I just finished over there. He pointed with his head toward the gate he'd been fixing. I can lend a quick hand. She hesitated. She'd spent so long depending on favors that came with hidden costs. But the man had already crossed the dusty road, picking up a heavy box like it weighed nothing. Marcus, I live at the ranch over there. He gestured toward the property. Sarah, they worked in silence for hours. The Texas sun beat down mercilessly, and she noticed how he sweated but never complained, never slowed down. When the last box finally made it inside the house, she tried to pay him. Don't need it. That's how it works around here. But you worked so hard. I need to get back. My kids get home from school soon. He was already walking toward the motorcycle parked in the shade. At least let me do something. I could bring lunch tomorrow, or if you want to stop by for coffee sometime. I'd appreciate that, but don't feel obligated. And he left before she could insist. The next day, Sarah baked a pie. Nothing fancy, but it was what she knew how to do well. She knocked on the door of the modest house next to the ranch. The plate still warm in her hands, a girl opened the door. Her look was pure distrust. I brought a pie to thank your dad for helping yesterday. Dad, someone's here. A boy appeared behind his sister, curious eyes. Marcus came to the door, clearly surprised. You didn't need to, but I wanted to. Can I come in? The house was simple but clean. Everything in its right place, organized with care. They sat at the small kitchen table, and Sarah noticed how the children watched her. The girl with calculated caution, the boy with childlike curiosity. Your name's Sarah, right? I'm David. The boy smiled, and there was something in that smile that squeezed her heart. And I'm Emily. The girl didn't smile. Nice to meet you both. Marcus served coffee, and gradually the conversation flowed. David talked excitedly about the ranch, about how his dad taught him to care for the animals, about the gate his dad was fixing when she arrived. And your mom? Sarah asked without thinking, and immediately regretted it when she saw silence fall over the table. Our mom left. David spoke quietly, stirring his empty cup. It's been a while. She didn't want us anymore. David. Emily cut in, voice sharp. The boy went quiet, shrinking down. Marcus sighed, and Sarah saw raw pain in his eyes. It's been 2 years. She decided to follow another path. Without us. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked. It's fine. It's reality. Emily spoke with a hardness that didn't match someone so young. We got used to it, but Sarah knew how to recognize a wound that hadn't healed. She knew that pain too well, the pain of pretending it doesn't hurt anymore. In the following days, she showed up occasionally, never invading, just being present. She brought a plant book she had at home, thinking Emily might use it for a school project. The girl accepted with a grunt that could be interpreted as thanks. She stayed for coffee when Marcus invited, but always maintaining respectful distance. Didn't ask questions about the children's mother. Didn't try to force closeness. Just was there. Do you like her? David asked his dad one night after Sarah had left following afternoon coffee. She seems like a good person. I like her. She doesn't ask stupid questions. Like if we miss mom. Emily said this while still looking out the window. Marcus looked at his daughter, surprised. It was rare for her to admit liking anyone. It was early March when everything collapsed. The ranch administrator arrived with news Marcus had been dreading for a long time. They sold it. The family from Dallas sold everything to an agricultural company. When? They take over in September. 6 months. 6 months to find work. 6 months to find another place to live. 6 months to rebuild everything again. And the house. Marcus already knew the answer. It's part of the sale. You'll have to leave. When Sarah showed up that afternoon to return a borrowed tool, she saw despair written on his face. Something happened. Nothing I can't handle. But his voice had no conviction. Marcus, I just need time. I'll figure it out. She didn't insist. Just left the tool and went home. But the weight on those shoulders wouldn't leave her mind. April arrived with suffocating heat. Marcus worked double shifts, woke before sunrise, slept after the kids were already in bed. Every penny saved was a brick in building some solution he still couldn't see. That's when Emily started complaining about headaches. At first, he thought it was fatigue, heat, stress. But when the girl fainted at school, fear took over. She needs tests. The doctor at the clinic was direct. Could be anemia, could be something more serious. I need complete blood work. How much? The number the doctor said equaled 2 weeks of his salary. 2 weeks he didn't have. I'll figure it out. When can I bring her in? He worked extra shifts, fixed fences for neighbors at dawn, substituted for sick workers on weekends, slept 4 hours a night, woke up dizzy, but the money was gathered penny by penny. When the results came in May, he read them alone before showing Emily. Severe anemia, continuous treatment, expensive medications, monthly follow-up in Austin, 3 hours away. He held the paper with trembling hands and allowed himself, just for 1 minute, to feel the crushing weight of everything. Then he took a deep breath, put away the results, and went to pick up the kids from school. That night, after David and Emily were asleep, he sat on the porch and looked at the stars. 6 months until losing the house. A daughter needing expensive treatment, savings evaporating, and still he had to continue, had to be strong, had to be both father and mother. Dad. Emily was in the doorway, holding her blanket. You okay? Yeah, sweetheart. Just thinking. She sat beside him, too small to carry the worry she saw in her father's eyes. It's about the tests, isn't it? We'll deal with it. I promise. I know you will. You always do. She rested her head on his shoulder, and Marcus felt his heart squeeze. How to explain to her that sometimes handling it wasn't enough? That sometimes the world weighed more than anyone could carry alone. But he just put his arm around his daughter's shoulders and stayed there in silence, because words wouldn't change anything. Only the determination to continue, one day at a time, one bill paid at a time, one hope stored at a time. Everything's gonna be okay. I promise. It was a promise he didn't know if he could keep, but it was the only thing he had to give in that moment. The promise that he wouldn't give up, no matter what it cost. You know how life has the gift of piling up crises. It doesn't come one at a time, politely waiting for you to solve the first before presenting the second. No, it throws everything at once, like it's testing exactly how much you can take before breaking. Marcus discovered this the worst way possible. May brought even more intense heat and bills that wouldn't stop growing. Emily's medications cost almost half his salary. The motorcycle, faithful companion of so many years, started having problems. The fuel tank leaked, the spark plugs needed replacing, and each trip to town for medical appointments consumed precious gallons of gas he could barely afford. He fixed what he could himself, spent dawns in the makeshift garage, using old lanterns because he couldn't waste electricity, patching with wire and patience what should be replaced with new parts. The bike worked, but each time he started the ignition, Marcus held his breath, hoping it wouldn't be the last time. Dad, the bike's making a weird noise. David commented one morning. I know, son. I'll take care of it. But taking care of it meant more sleepless nights, more makeshift fixes, more hope that everything would last just a little longer. Sarah began to notice the changes. The deep dark circles, the way Marcus trembled from exhaustion at the end of the day, the medicine bottles on the kitchen table that increased every week. Marcus, you need help, she said one day when she stopped by for a quick coffee and found him practically sleeping on his feet. I'm managing. No, you're not. You're going to collapse if you keep this up. And what do you suggest? That I beg? That I sit and wait for someone to solve my life? The sharpness in his voice made her step back. That's not what I meant. I just wanted what? To lend me money? Become my savior. He stopped, took a deep breath, ran his hand over his face. Sorry, I shouldn't have talked like that. Sarah was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was lower, firmer. You think accepting help makes you less of a man? Less of a father? Less capable? I grew up watching my dad accept favors from his boss. His voice was heavy with years of hurt. He had to be grateful for crumbs, bow his head, accept humiliation because he needed food on the table. I swore I'd be different, that my kids would never see me that way. And would they rather see you dying from overwork? Getting sick because you don't rest? That's setting an example? The words hurt because they were true. I just need more time. I'll manage. Sarah didn't insist anymore, just left a prepared meal in the fridge before leaving. And Marcus hated how that made him feel, grateful and humiliated at the same time. Listen, there's something about pride that needs to be said here, and maybe you need to hear this as much as Marcus did. Pride isn't the same as dignity. Dignity is knowing your worth regardless of circumstances. Pride is refusing to ask for help because you think it diminishes who you are. And Marcus was drowning in pride while his family paid the price. It was late April when the conversation happened that would change everything. Sarah showed up at the gate as the sun was setting, bringing the milder temperature of approaching night. Can I sit here? She pointed to the porch steps. Of course. They sat in silence for a few minutes, just watching the sky colors change from orange to purple. I owe you an explanation, Sarah began, about why I reacted that way when you were harsh the other day. You don't owe me anything. I was the idiot. Even so, I want you to understand. She took a deep breath. I know what humiliation is. I know what it's like to have every dollar be held over your head. Every favor come with a price attached. Marcus looked at her, really looked for the first time in weeks. There was pain there he recognized. I was married for 6 years. Every decision I made was questioned. Every expense needed approval. Every dream I had was ridiculed as naive woman stuff. Her voice trembled slightly. When I finally got out, I was broken. Not just financially, emotionally, mentally broken. Sarah, let me finish, please. She quickly wiped her eyes. It took me 2 years to pay off debts I didn't make. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. Every penny I earned went to paying what he'd put in my name. She looked at him. And you know what I learned? I learned there's a difference between accepting help and accepting humiliation. When someone helps you and charges you for it later, with words, with control, with making you feel inferior, that's not help. It's manipulation. She held his hand. Simple gesture, but firm. But when someone offers real help, expecting nothing, without diminishing you, and you refuse out of pride, you're throwing away a rare gift. But I don't want my kids. Your kids are watching a father who works until exhaustion, who doesn't sleep, who destroys himself trying to do everything alone. You think that's the example you want to give? She squeezed his hand. Or do you want to teach them that asking for help when you need it is part of being strong? That community exists for this? That people who care about you will be there in the worst moments? The words fell like stones on his chest. Because she was right. Because he was so busy protecting his pride that he didn't notice he was sacrificing everything more important. I don't know how to do it differently. The admission came out painful. I don't know how to accept without feeling like I'm failing. Start by accepting the meal I leave. Start by letting Emily study with the books I lend. Small steps, Marcus. Nobody's asking you to give up control of your life, just to share the weight. That night, after Sarah left, Marcus stayed awake thinking. He thought about his father, always bent over, always accepting less than he deserved. He thought about how he swore to be different. But was he really being different? Or was he just being proud in a way that hurt differently? Emily appeared in his bedroom doorway around midnight. Still awake, Dad. Thinking too much to sleep. She sat on the edge of the bed, a rare gesture of vulnerability. I heard the conversation with Sarah, I'm not angry or anything. I just wanted to say something." She looked at her own hands. "I'd rather have a dad who accepts help and spends more time with us than a dad so proud he can barely open his eyes from exhaustion." The brutal simplicity of truth from a girl who shouldn't have to worry about these things, but who grew up too fast because life gave no choice. After she went back to her room, Marcus allowed himself to cry. Quietly, contained, the tears he'd held for months. He cried for the daughter who matured too fast, for the son who offered to work to help, for the wife who abandoned everything, for the stupid pride that almost made him lose what really mattered. It was the beginning of July when the ex-wife reappeared. Marcus was fixing the ranch gate when he saw the truck stop on the road. A woman got out, and for a second he didn't recognize her. 2 years make a difference. But then she turned her face, and the past came back like a punch to the gut. "Jennifer." "Marcus." The voice was the same. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see the kids. They're my daughters too." Anger came fast, burning. "You abandoned them. It's been 2 years since you left without looking back." "I know, and I was wrong. I came to fix that." Marcus dropped his tools, wiped his greasy hands. "You can't just show up after 2 years and think." "I changed, Marcus. I matured. I realized the mistake I made. There was something in how she spoke that didn't feel right. Too rehearsed, too calculated." But he was too afraid of what her presence meant to notice the signs. The kids need their mother. Is that it?" Jennifer crossed her arms. "Look, I know I messed up, but I'm here to take responsibility. I want to be part of their lives again." And the worst part? A tiny part of Marcus wanted to believe. Not for him, for the kids. Because he saw how David still looked for his mother in every woman who passed on the street. How Emily pretended not to care but kept the only photo they had together hidden under her mattress. "You need to leave." But his voice didn't come out with the necessary conviction. "Give me a chance. That's all. Let me prove I changed." He didn't say yes, but he also didn't say no firmly enough. And that was the first mistake. The next 2 weeks were surreal. Jennifer showed up every day, always with gifts. New clothes for David, books for Emily, expensive food they never ate. She talked about how much she'd changed, about therapy she did, about realizing her mistakes. David attached too quickly, started calling her mom again, looking for her, believing every word. Emily was more cautious, kept her distance, observed everything with an analytical gaze. And Marcus was confused, because part of him wanted it to be true, wanted the kids to have their mother back. But another part, the part that had held David when he cried asking why mom didn't want him, that part knew something was wrong. Sarah disappeared from the routine, didn't show up for morning coffee anymore, didn't offer rides, didn't help with homework. David asked about her every day. "Where's Sarah, Dad?" "She's busy, son. But doesn't she like us anymore?" How to explain to a child that sometimes people step away not because they stop caring, but precisely because they care too much. Emily pretended not to care, but Marcus saw how she looked at the house next door, waiting to see movement. Saw how she kept the plant book they made together, looking at the pages when she thought no one was watching. And Marcus missed her too. The porch conversations, the coffee she made, the way she understood without needing explanation. But he was afraid that all of that had been temporary, and that with Jennifer back, Sarah had realized there was no space for her. The truth, as always, was waiting for the right moment to appear. And when it appeared, it was in the cruelest way possible. Late July. Marcus came home early, bringing new medicine the doctor had prescribed for Emily. Jennifer was there, talking on the phone in the backyard. She'd left her purse on the kitchen table. He wasn't going to snoop, wasn't the type to pry. But when he passed by the table getting water, he saw papers sticking out of the purse. Lawyer papers. Curiosity, worry, instinct. He picked up the papers and read quickly. Custody waiver, child support exemption, legal documents releasing Jennifer from any responsibility with the children. The floor disappeared. She hadn't come back because she changed. She came back because she needed him to sign papers that would free her completely. And suddenly everything made sense. The expensive gifts, the exaggerated attention, the beautiful promises, everything calculated to manipulate him into doing what she wanted. When she came back from the backyard, he was holding the papers. "You were going to tell me about this." His voice was controlled, but rage boiled underneath. Jennifer looked at the papers, and for a second he saw panic on her face. But then the mask fell completely. "You had no right to go through my things. Answer the question. Were you going to tell me?" Eventually, when it was the right time. The right time. Marcus felt his voice rise. "You come back here pretending you changed, manipulating the kids. All of this for what? To make me sign papers releasing you from responsibility? It's not like that. Then explain to me how it is. Explain why you need me to sign this." Jennifer crossed her arms, defensive. "I have the right to live my life. I have someone now who wants to marry me. But he demands that I resolve pending matters from the past." Pending matters. They're your daughters. They're daughters I never really wanted. The truth came out raw, unfiltered. "I never wanted to be a mother, Marcus. You knew that from the beginning. I tried, but it didn't work. And now I have a chance to start over. But I need to close this chapter." Close the chapter? That's what you call them? A chapter. I'm being honest for the first time. And I'm doing you a favor by officially releasing you from me. Favor. The word came out like spit. You think you're doing a favor? Abandoning them again? Making them believe you changed just so you could ask for my signature on paper? Just sign it and let me leave in peace. Leave now. And don't ever come back. Jennifer grabbed her purse, shoved the papers in any way to the door. She turned one last time. "You'll regret this. You'll need support, child support. And you won't have it. We never had it. The difference is that now they won't wait anymore." After she left, Marcus stood there, holding the table so he wouldn't fall. The kids were in their rooms. They'd heard parts of the argument. Even though he tried to keep his voice down, he needed to tell them. Needed to be honest, even if it hurt. He sat with them in the living room. Emily already knew. It was written on her face. David still had hope in his eyes. Hope that would die in the next few minutes. "Your mom's not coming back anymore." He began, choosing words carefully. "She made choices that are about her, not about you. You didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't want us." David said, and it wasn't a question. "She can't be a mother the way you deserve. And that's her failure, not yours." Emily went very quiet, not locked away, but present without really being there. David cried, and Marcus held him until he stopped. That night, after the kids finally fell asleep, Marcus allowed himself to feel everything he'd held back. The anger, the sadness, the relief of finally knowing the truth, and the fear of having lost Sarah because of all this. Because you understand, don't you? Sometimes we lose the right people while trying to make the wrong ones work. And sometimes when we wake up from the illusion, it's too late. The days after Jennifer's departure were the quietest that house had ever seen. Emily went back to survival mode, present but absent, functioning on autopilot. David was the opposite. He cried openly, asked questions that had no good answers. "Why am I not good enough?" he asked one night, and Marcus felt his heart break into pieces too small to put back together. "You're perfect, son. This has nothing to do with you." Then why didn't she want to stay? How to explain to a child that some people simply can't love the way they should? That it's not the fault of the one being loved, but of the one who should love. Marcus tried everything. Talked, hugged, gave space, gave presence. But there was a limit to what he alone could do. The wound was too deep, and he didn't have the right tools to help it heal. That's when he realized he needed Sarah. Not because she was a replacement, not because she would solve everything, but because she understood the pain of rejection in a way he didn't. Because the kids trusted her. Because she was part of them in a way that denying made no sense anymore. Early August. Marcus walked to the house next door for the first time in weeks. Sarah was in the yard, tending to the garden that had grown well despite the cold. She wore work gloves, was covered in dirt, and there was something different about her. More comfortable, less hidden. "Sarah." She looked up, surprised. For a second, he saw hope there. But then she went back to careful, protected. "Hi, Marcus. Can I talk to you?" She took off her gloves, pointed to the porch. They sat in the same places as always, but everything felt different. Like they'd lost something they didn't know if they could get back. "Jennifer's gone for good this time. I heard. Neighbors mentioned it. She didn't come back because she changed. She came back because she needed me to sign papers releasing her from any responsibility. She was engaged, and the guy demanded she get rid of any ties to the kids." Sarah closed her eyes, and he saw pain there. Not for her. For the children. "The kids are destroyed." He continued, voice breaking. "Emily won't talk anymore. Just answers the basics. David wakes up crying every night, saying he's not good enough. And I don't know how to help them. I don't know how to fix this." "You can't fix it, Marcus. You can only be present while they process." "I know, but they need you too." He looked at her for real. "I need you, not to solve things, but to be together while we try. I stepped away because I thought it was right. That you needed space. We needed you. Em asks about you every day. David draws you in his pictures. And He took a deep breath. "I miss you. The way you understand without judging. How you make coffee too strong and burn pies but keep trying. How you exist in the small spaces of our lives and make everything feel less heavy." Tears ran down her face, silent. "I was so scared," she admitted. "Scared you'd get back with her. Scared I'd gotten too involved with you and would end up being the rejected one this time. Scared of loving people who weren't mine to love. You think there's a manual for this?" He held her hands. "A right way to form a family? We found each other in the middle of chaos, Sarah. And even with everything bad, you chose to stay until you thought you needed to leave. But I'm asking you to choose to stay again. And if I hurt them too? And if you don't? And if you're exactly what we need?" Sarah came back that same day. She knocked on the door and David opened it. For a second, the boy was paralyzed. Then he threw himself into her arms, crying. "You left. I thought everyone always leaves." "I didn't leave. I just gave wrong space. I'm sorry, David. I'm really sorry." Emily appeared in the hallway, looked at Sarah, at her brother in her arms, at her dad watching everything. And then, for the first time since July, she cried. Not contained, not alone in her room, right there in front of everyone, letting the pain out. Sarah let go of David and hugged Emily, who resisted for half a second before collapsing completely. She said I wasn't the daughter she wanted. Emily sobbed. She said she never wanted to be a mother. I know, and it hurts in a way I can't say will go away. But listen, you don't need to be perfect to be loved. You don't need to be different, better, easier. You are exactly who you need to be. She held Emily's face. But she's wrong. And you're going to carry this pain, but eventually it'll get smaller. And when it does, you'll realize there are people who chose to stay, who chose to love you, not out of obligation, but because you're worth it. That night, after the kids were asleep, Marcus and Sarah stayed on the porch. They didn't talk much, just held hands, and it was enough. But reality doesn't wait for emotional healing to finish. Life continues with practical problems that can't be ignored. Late August. The court summons arrived. Jennifer had filed for custody, claiming Marcus didn't have the financial means to raise the kids. He was about to lose his house, didn't have a steady job, and his daughter had health problems he could barely pay for. It was pure revenge. She knew she wouldn't win custody, didn't want it, but she wanted to force him to agree to the responsibility waiver, using the kids as bargaining chips. Marcus read the summons and panicked. He didn't have money for a lawyer, didn't have a way to fight this alone. And for the first time since Jennifer left, he felt real fear. What do I do? He asked Sarah, hands shaking holding the paper. We fight, but not alone. The next day, Sarah went to town, to the general store. She talked to the owner, explained the situation. And something extraordinary began to happen. There's something about small communities that big cities have forgotten. When someone falls, everyone feels it. And when everyone feels it, everyone helps. not out of obligation, not expecting anything back, but because that's how community works. The store owner organized a collection among local merchants. He spent weeks gathering, $20 here, $50 there, $100 from those who could give more. They were small amounts from many people, but love isn't measured in values. It's measured in gesture. They gathered $1,800. Sarah contributed $1,200. All the savings she'd accumulated since paying off her last marriage debt in March. Money saved for emergencies, for in case she needed it. And she needed it, but not for herself, for the people she'd chosen as family. I can't accept this, Marcus said when she put the money on the table. It's a loan, no deadline, no interest. You pay when you can, how you can. Or don't pay and we move on anyway. Sarah, let me be part of the solution, Marcus. Let me help protect these kids. With $3,000, he hired a lawyer from the next town. A simple man who took the value, explaining it was a case with clear evidence. Documented abandonment of 2 years. No child support. Documents showing manipulation attempt. And you have character witnesses. We'll win this. Part 15. The community RISES, but winning wasn't just about the lawyer. It was about proof. It was about showing those kids were safe, loved, cared for. The mobilization continued. 3 neighbors volunteered to testify. They spoke about Marcus as a father, as a worker, as a person. The kid's teacher wrote a detailed letter about academic and emotional development. About his care, the pharmacy owner provided a statement showing he bought his daughter's medicine religiously, always on time. Sarah offered to testify about the family's emotional stability, about the healthy home environment she saw every day. You don't have to do this, Marcus said. I do, because it's true, and because these kids deserve the truth to be told. Do you see what was happening? An entire community rising to protect a family. Not because they had to, but because when you plant kindness, it grows in places you don't even expect. But there was another urgent problem. Late September, he had to leave the ranch house. The new owners gave no extension. They wanted to start renovations immediately. And he had nowhere to go. It was Sarah who made the proposal one night as they sat to calculate debts and deadlines. My house has 3 bedrooms. I only use 1. Sarah. Hear me out before you refuse. You can stay temporarily. No fixed deadline. No rent. When you get back on your feet and want to contribute something, we'll talk. I can't. The house is falling apart, Marcus. Roof leaks, windows stuck, fence destroyed. You have the skills I don't. If you want to help with repairs as a way to repay housing, it'd be fair for both of us. He was silent. Processing. It was a practical solution. It made sense. But it meant admitting he'd reached his limit. That he couldn't do it alone anymore. It took 3 days to decide. He talked at length with the kids. We're going to live with Sarah? David asked, eyes shining. Temporarily. Until I get another job, another house. But why temporarily? Doesn't she want us always? Emily, always more practical, cut to the wound. Dad, pride won't keep us warm when we're sleeping on the street. She's offering real help, not charity. The difference is she doesn't expect anything in return, except for us to be honest with her. And there was his daughter who'd matured too fast, teaching her father a lesson about humility. They moved the last week of September. A neighbor lent his truck, and Marcus repaid by fixing the engine that was failing. They took only the essentials. 2 trips. Beds, clothes, some small furniture, David's drawings, Emily's plant book. It was strange at first. Sharing space with someone who wasn't blood family, but was chosen family. Redefining boundaries. Learning each other's rhythms. Discovering quirks and habits. Sarah woke early and made coffee too strong. Marcus fixed things she hadn't even asked to be fixed. Emily helped with the garden without being asked. David set the table after meals. It wasn't perfect. There were difficult days, moments of tension, space accidentally invaded. But there were also laughs in the kitchen, conversations on the porch, the feeling that there, in that patched-up house, something real was forming. October brought the hearings. A social worker visited the house, interviewed everyone separately. Marcus explained honestly. Lost ranch housing. Neighbor offered temporary shelter. The day of the trial arrived cold and clear, one of those Texas autumns that seemed to apologize for the summer heat. Marcus wore the only dress shirt he still had, ran his hand through his hair 1,000 times, and held Sarah's hand tightly in the back seat of the lawyer's car. Emily and David were left at school. Children didn't need to see that. In the small-town courthouse, Jennifer was there, made up, composed, with an expensive lawyer by her side. She smiled politely when she saw them enter. Marcus felt his stomach turn. But then he looked around. The audience was full. The grocery store owner, the children's teacher, 2 neighbors he had helped with fences years ago, the pharmacist, even the ranch veterinarian, who never spoke much, was there with his hat in his hand. They all came, without him asking. The judge called the case. Jennifer spoke first. She said she regretted it, that she wanted to be part of the children's lives again, that she was worried about the father's financial instability, that he was going to lose the house, that the daughter was sick, that maybe it would be better for the children to have 2 stable references. Her lawyer presented documents, charts, numbers. When it was Marcus's turn, he almost couldn't speak. His voice came out hoarse. "Your Honor, I don't have charts. I only have the truth. I raised these 2 alone for 2 years. I never missed a day of medicine for my daughter. I never missed a day of school for both. I never missed a hug when they needed it. I don't have my own house now, but I have people who believe in us, and that's worth more than any paper." Then the lawyer called the witnesses point one by one. Simple people from that countryside stood up and told who Marcus really was. The teacher cried talking about the day Emily fainted in class and Marcus dropped everything to pick her up. The pharmacist showed the receipts. Every 12th of the month, without fail, the medicine was paid. The neighbor told how Marcus fixed his tractor for free when his wife was in the hospital. And Sarah was the last. She stood calmly, looked straight at the judge and said, "I am not their mother by blood, but I chose to be family. And real family is not measured in money. It's measured in presence, in breakfast made together, in nights when Emily's fever rose and the 3 of us stayed awake taking turns with compresses, in hugs when David cries because he dreamed he was abandoned again. I didn't come to save anyone. I came because this man and these children had already saved my life before they even knew it." The courtroom fell silent. Jennifer lowered her head. The judge took less than 10 minutes in the decision room. When he returned, the sentence was short. Full custody remains with the father. Definitive renunciation of the mother's parental rights and duties, as per the document already presented by her. Case closed. And Mr. Marcus, you are lucky to live where you live. Not everyone has a community like this. Marcus couldn't hold back. He cried right there, standing, with Sarah holding his arm. 2 months later, on a December afternoon with the smell of burning wood. Sarah's house, now their house, was full of simple Christmas lights, made with strings David found in the attic. Emily was in the garden planting new seedlings with a sign she herself painted, "Garden of the Family We Chose." David ran after the mutt dog Marcus brought from the ranch on his last day of work. He had nowhere to go, Dad. And on the porch, Marcus and Sarah drank coffee, too strong as always. He held her hand. "Do you remember that day I helped you with the boxes?" "I do. I thought I was just being polite to the new neighbor." She smiled, her eyes shining. "And I thought I was just accepting help from a stranger. I never imagined I was letting in the man of my life and the 2 children I didn't even know I could have." Marcus pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside, there wasn't an expensive ring. There was a simple silver band and 2 smaller ones. "I don't have much to offer yet, but I have an entire future, and I want to share it with you 3. Will you marry me, Sarah? And you too? Do you want me to officially be the father I've always been, and for you to officially be the mother you've already chosen?" David shouted yes. Before Sarah even answered, Emily ran, hugged them both, and whispered with a trembling voice. It was about time, and there, in the yard of an old house that would never be empty again, for people whom fate had thrown against each other became, once and for all, a whole family. Because sometimes life takes everything from you to give you. Space to receive what really matters. The end. If the story touched you, leave a little heart in the comments. I read them all,